All right. So I
That went quite
remembered,
smooth. I feel like that was all right.
yeah, we can definitely keep on doing these shorter episodes. We'll record maybe two or three per week. Then,
I
yeah,
mean, we
slowly.
say shorter, it's within the time frame that it was supposed to be.
Yeah, that was the initial target. Yeah.
Let's do these shorter 20-minute episodes. Yeah? Welcome to the 20-Minute Mentors podcast. Recorded in Clanfai Perth Wing Ed Kun Wedding King Droth Kun Lands and Go Yasili Go Go Go. Here's your hosts. Welcome back to 20-Minute Mentors. I'm Matt and I'm joined by Mike.
Yes, present as
Present,
always.
there you are. And today we're following our journey through the sort of work cycle, I guess, for lack of a better term. So in the last episode, we talked about first day and sort of how to get over those nerves and getting into your career and what it's like having a first day in an office, as Mikey took us through, and what it's like having a first day remote, like I have. Today, we're going to talk a bit more about productivity tools. And I think the next few episodes, we're going to talk about productivity. So if we follow on that process of you've landed your role, you've got into your role, how do you actually be productive in your role? That's the plan for the next few episodes. We're going to pick a different topic each episode and then kind of explore it, add our own experience to it. And this really was the main reason that we put this podcast together, is to take one of these high level ideas or concepts that you might have heard before, but you don't really know how to apply or what it means, and really break it down into little steps. So I'm excited to get going on this one. I think we've got GTD today, which is something I've experienced in the past. We'll start with the first question. Mikey, do you know what GTD means?
Could the TD mean transmitted disease? No, I'm kidding. Yeah, that was a bad joke, but
It's a good Valentine's
um
joke.
all right, yeah, we're recording this on Valentine's, and yeah, I'll try to edit this and publish this on Valentine's. If not, then yeah, whatever. But yeah, getting things done, I assume, right?
Yeah, that's right. GTD, getting things done. So it comes from a book by David Allen, I think it is, who wrote it. And the whole, I guess, really before we dive in deeply into like what it is and how you do it, have you ever heard of it, come across it in your career before, Mike?
The phrase itself, getting things done, I've definitely come across that. But as to what the framework is and how you
Mm,
actually lay that or connect that to your actual work, I haven't really done it myself. So I'm really looking forward to learning more about this from you as well.
cool. Yeah, it's interesting because some words and phrases just become thrown around and no one really understands what it means. Like, exactly like this, like, oh, we'll just get it done. And it's like, well, like that's clearly a title of a book or something, but actually, what does that mean practically? Um, so yeah, the introduction. What is getting things done? So, Getting Things Done is a book by David Allen. It's been very common in the workplace for years. I was recommended it first about 6 years ago in one of my jobs, and we actually did a bit of a book club on it as a company. So there was myself from IT, there was a lady from the PA team, there was someone from recruitment, and it was bringing us all together as kind of leaders of our departments to study this book, look at what it teaches you, and take some of the learnings away from it. So it's it's definitely a book that's kind of well out there. It's been very heavily promoted and used within business scenarios. So I'll take you through kind of the core structure, and then maybe there'll be bits that actually jump out to you, the listener, and also to yourself, Mike, to go, oh, actually, yeah, I've done that, but didn't realize that's what it was part of.
For sure.
So the first part, so it kind of try again. So getting things done breaks essentially your productivity workflow into 5 steps: into capture, clarify, organize, reflect, and engage. They're all pretty big terms, but what that actually means is looking at how you receive work, whether it be email, text, Slack, Teams, phone call, how you capture that work, how you understand it, work out the priority of it, and then do it. So, to use an example on the sort of capture, clarify, organize, reflect, and engage framework, is if I receive an email from, let's say from you, Mikey, I've received an email and it says, actually, this thing is really important and it's got to be done tomorrow. So I've captured that. It's an email. I have already got clarity in the email of when it needs to be done. It needs to be done tomorrow. So how do I organize it? And how do I organize that against all the other tasks that are coming in? So getting things done really helps build out that framework. And the way that I've applied it is trying to funnel all of my communication into one space. So I use Slack at work, which is a messaging tool for those who haven't used it, and email. All of my communication comes through those two tools. So that's my capture, the communication coming in. If the information isn't completely clear, I'll clarify it. So I'll understand what is this request, what's the question, what's the ask, what am I being asked to do by this email or message, and then I'll organize it. And getting things done takes you through. I think it uses today, tomorrow, someday as their sort of marker of when things should be done. I use the today, this week, next week. It's just the way I find it works a bit better for me. So I have a list application. I actually use Apple Reminders for work, and I create a week for a subsection for each week. So I have week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5, and at the beginning of the week I'll create a new week. So this week I've just created a new week, and anything that comes in which is an action on me, I will create in that week. So I'll go into reminders, I'll go into my company, I can see week 13, 15, whichever week it is, and I can then create a reminder inside of that list. So I've got my capture, my clarify, and then I'm starting to organize. So if I get a task which is due today, I can then mark it, whether it be using something like Microsoft To Do or Apple Reminders as today. And then, or I can mark it as tomorrow, or I can mark it as this week, or I can create a new week and just drop it in there so it's out of the way. So I've got my organize. I've understood what work I've been asked to do. I've pulled it into a list and organized it. And then I now have a reasonably straightforward list of things to action from. Now, the reflect part is it's the getting things done way of ensuring that you're doing what is important. So it's reflecting on the workload. Again, I think reflect is a bit of a strange word to use here. Personally, I would say prioritize or make sure that you're prioritizing your workload. So, if a task has come in and you've moved it to tomorrow, when you get to tomorrow, make sure that's on today. It's just reflecting on the list of things you have and make sure they're actually organized correctly. And also making sure you have all the information to be able to tackle that task. It doesn't necessarily matter if you don't know everything about a task that you're not doing until next week, but if it's something you're going to pick up tomorrow, maybe there should be another task there to talk to that person or understand that item in more detail that you're going to pick up tomorrow. And then engage. So basically pick up the item, work on it, close it down, go for the next one, work on it and close it down. I have used this method for about 5 years. I've always found an application that works, whether I'm at a company which uses Apple and I use Apple Reminders, or a company that uses Microsoft To Do, Microsoft company. And when I've not been in either of those, I've used applications such as Wunderlist before that was closed down. And again, Microsoft To Do can be installed on different devices too. So I found that to be a really consistent tool for kind of following this framework. And where there's a lot there, Mikey, does that make sense to someone who's never experienced getting things done before? Does that framework make sense to you?
Yes, very much so. What I got from it, though, it shares pretty much the basic principles with some of the other concepts, in which some we're going to talk about in future episodes as well, like the Eisenhower matrix. But from what I got in your initial explanation is first and foremost the ability to capture and clarify the tasks or the duties that you have for that specific work week is essential and key to this framework. And once you have that done, then it's up to you as to how you're gonna manage your time and the workload that you're gonna have for the specific time frame. Correct me if I'm wrong though, but that's what I got from the gist of what you've just said.
No, exactly right. Exactly it. It's kind of it. all getting things done does, well, that's a tongue twister. All getting things done does is give you a framework to essentially organize the work that you're going to do. And it gives you that really sort of, it's kind of loose, but also there's a little bit of structure there of consolidate your communication methods and find a consistent way to plan. The rest is kind of on you.
Yeah, definitely. Especially that we're kind of covering a very broad topic, especially that we're not narrowing down the types of roles that we're talking about or we're targeting. So this could very much apply whether you're a regular rank and file employee or you're a manager or you're a C level person. It all boils down to having that structure of work that you employ on a personal basis and something that helps you achieve the most that you can within a specific time frame or target.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's the thing is the reason I found the getting things done method to work is because I've worked in different industries. So I mentioned it earlier on in one of the earlier podcasts, but I've got a military background, and without really knowing it, it's something that you experience there as well. As in, here's a list of things I want you to do today. You're not essentially at my level in the military. I wasn't really in control of what the next week or next month looked like, but I knew my list for the day. And I think that's there's certain elements of it you can apply to any role. Whether you said, you're doing data entry and that's your first real job and you're kind of exploring it, well, actually having that setup of I've been asked to do this next and then I need to do this one tomorrow. That organization is great, right the way up to, I know when we were working together, we were working on some big, quite scary projects that were had a million different moving parts. And it was an easy way to keep that organized too, of going, let's get rid of all the noise. What do I need to focus on today? What do I need to focus on tomorrow?
And yeah, the good thing about having these types of frameworks, whether you're very early on in your career or you're somehow in the maturity phase or maybe perhaps you've already reached the very top of the career ladder, is this doesn't change. The necessity is always going to be there, but having this framework very early on gives you that habit in relation to your atomic habits episode as well. Having this habit very early on definitely makes it easier for you to perform at all stages or wherever you are at your career. So yeah, I think I see the importance and the value of what we are doing here, basically laying it out to the public, sharing our experiences, and basically trying to help out, spread the good news, whether our listeners are top executives or just like myself, basic rank and file employees. There's really value into these types of frameworks.
Mm, absolutely. Yeah, 100%. So I guess we spoke, what getting things done or GTD brings. Um, I guess it's probably a good idea to talk about some of the negatives to it too. So not all frameworks are meaningful, impactful work for everybody. And I think the getting things done, although I have found it very useful, might not work for a particular individual. And there's some things behind that. So some of the reasons that this might not work for you as a particular framework is, getting all of your communication points lined up, as in getting your emails and Slack and telephone and whatever it might be, getting those into one place takes some work. And a lot of the negative feedback initially about getting things done is that that takes some time. It does take some time to set that process up of creating a to-do list, remembering to create the list, remembering to pull your information in there. The minute that you forget to add a conversation you've had or a task that you've got, your list is then almost pointless because it's not 100% accurate. So there is definitely an upfront element to getting things done, which is certainly seen by some as a bit of a negative. Another problem or difficulty using this particular framework is it makes it difficult to kind of share the work a little bit. So for my role, normally I'm the last person in my department or I'm the only person in my department. So this works quite well for me because I have my list, I know what I'm working through. Wherefore, if your department is 10 or 15 people and you're delegating, that can be a little bit tricky because you either then have to get everyone on the same shared list, you have to then share work out to people. It struggles to scale beyond maybe 4 or 5 people. So, although it's really good for an individual level, it might not be the best approach at the very high, sort of busy team level. And then one of the other really final bits of negative feedback I get about getting things done is maintaining, remembering to set your lists. So there is a bit of work there to create your inputs and capture the sort of capture side of emails, messages, texts, whatever you're getting them consolidated and remembering to write those up, but also remembering to, on the other side, create the structure and keep that structure up to date. My personal trick here is I'm currently at an Apple business. So we use everything Apple, which is really cool. I have created a workflow that pulls my to do list into a note, which sounds really strange when I say it out loud. But as I close down an item, my little workflow gets the item that I've closed and adds it to a note. So at the end of the week, I can see all of the items I closed, the day I created the item, the day I closed the item. So I just kind of automated that thing in the background. Now I know Reminders does offer this, but if I'm having a catch up with one of the managers where I work, I can easily pull this document up and say, actually, I added this task on Monday at 10 a.m. and I closed it on Tuesday at midday. So I've got that really easy traceability between what I created and what the output is. Now that does take time, and you do have to remember to put everything in there. I also set aside about half an hour on a Thursday. I tend to do the manager catch up on a Friday, half an hour on a Thursday to go through that list and make sure that everything I've done this week is captured. Everything I've done this week has been closed down. And again, that does take some time that people might struggle to find to do. So if you put in the work on this one, I think it's a really powerful framework to use. It's just trying to put the work in to actually establish it and keep it going, which I think some people may struggle with.
Hmm. I guess what they say about creating or having that habit really takes time. So you'd have to be really disciplined. But I guess nowadays, collaboration as well has never been more easy. And there's definitely more tools outside of Apple and Windows that provides the same functionalities. We were both, not privy to all the applications or tools available, and actually implore our listeners, if you've gone up to this episode, to reach out to us and share tools and platforms that have worked for you, because it might also provide some value to the other listeners that we have.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I I learned my way of doing things by cobbling bits together as I went along. So if anyone comes to us and says, actually, don't use reminders, this application is better, or I have an app that does this, or I found a way of doing this in a better way, absolutely recommend it. The whole purpose of this podcast is to kind of break down those crazy high level ideas, such as you know, as we started this call, what is GTD, but also how do we approach that and fix and work on it as a community. So, yeah, any suggestions, comments, ideas to make it work in your way, please do get in touch with us. So we're near the 20-minute mark, so I think we've actually nearly done an episode within 20 minutes. So to summarize what we spoke about today, we've talked about Getting Things Done, which is a book by David Allen. The book covers off how to make your to-do list and your work life as stress-free as possible. And that's by using the 5 pieces of the Getting Things Done framework, which is capture, clarify, organize, reflect, and engage. How you capture work, how you clarify the importance of that work, how you organize it and make sure you have a concise to-do list, how you reflect and make sure that's always up to date and you have the information you need, and then how you tackle that and get that work completed and off your plate. We mentioned a couple of tools that we've used, and by all means, I'd encourage you to play around with things like Wunderlist. I know it's still around, even though Microsoft bought it out and changed it. Microsoft To Do's there, Apple Reminders are there, but there is a million other tools. So please have a play around with the framework, the ideas, and see what works for you. That covers off what we've done on getting things done. I think next episode we're discussing a different productivity framework. Is that right, Mikey?
Yes, very much so. It's still related to time management and making sure that you have a very productive work week. So, we're going to be touching on a different framework, but still essentially works on the basic principle of capturing your tasks, getting to know what you're dealing with for that day or week, and we're going to be covering the Eisenhower matrix on the next episode.
I'm
And
excited because sorry, I was going to say I'm excited because I've never worked with Eisenhower Matrix before.
yeah, you've never really used it, but I do know based on our interaction in the past when you hired me as your junior. I know that you know the concept, so yeah, it's going to be an interesting episode
Okay,
next.
cool.
Yeah, having said that, thank you so much for taking the time to listen, and we'll see you all on the next episode. Bye, folks.
Bye all.